what did you do outside of the classroom? Like, what has been your experience of, I mean, so you're born and raised New Yorker, right? Like, I
In the
mean,
Bronx.
in
Mm-hmm.
the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
Okay,
No.
just as a brief tangent, very brief. I've heard that you have to live in New York for a set amount of time before you can call yourself a New Yorker. Is this like people get kind of defensive about calling you like when I come back to New York in 2 days, you know, is that true? Do people kind of hold on to
Honestly,
that?
very similar to that discussion that we had on New Jersey.
Uh,
I don't really buy into any of that stuff. I feel like if you've been here long enough to understand the culture and understand specifically the subway system, like I feel like that's a good. Once you understand the subway system, I feel like you should be proud of yourself enough to call yourself a New Yorker at that point,
okay.
because it can be very challenging to navigate um, through the subway system in New York City. But no, I mean, if you ask me personally, as long
Yeah.
as you've had a decent amount of experience in the city, as long as you've done your part in trying to immerse yourself in that culture, trying to figure out what all these boroughs are about. And that's one thing I will
Mm,
say, that if you've spent all your time in New York, in just in Brooklyn or just in Manhattan, then I would hesitate to call you like a New Yorker. Like you need to see what's in the Bronx, you need to see what's in Queens, you need to
yeah.
see, all these different areas so that you really get just a full picture. Because
What about
that's one.
Staten Island? Like that too?
Okay. That's where the uh standard New York comes out, is when you mention Staten Island. I mean, sure, it wouldn't be the first place. It would definitely not be the first place I would recommend you go to, but um yeah, I mean, what makes New York so special is the diversity, not just
Yeah.
in terms of people, but just the music,
Mhm.
the geographical location, just the overall culture is what makes it different from any other place I've been to. And you'll never really get fully immersed if you spend all your time in one borough. You need to explore. You need to get a sense of what each area has to offer, and then once you stay true to that, then I have no problems with someone calling themselves a New Yorker, even if they're not from here. So
Okay.
you know what? There are actually, and again, not to further digress into this topic, but I would say there are some people I know who weren't born and raised in New York that I would call New Yorkers before some people who were born and raised in New York,
Okay.
just because we were so open-minded about getting a full overview of what it is to live in the city, that they've earned my respect. You know,
Mm.
they've earned my respect, and so um, I would definitely encourage you. And I know a lot of my classmates are also making that transition into New York City, and I've had that kind of same advice for them as well. Encouraging them to seek out all these different places and cultures, and I think it can be very valuable. And if you're gonna be in New York City, you might as well immerse yourself fully in our culture, and I think
Yeah.
that's very valuable.
I think so. I've got exposure to like lower and middle Manhattan, pretty much up to Times Square, and like South Brooklyn and Central Brooklyn, Prospect area, Bed-Stuy.
Right.
Um, but I don't have a lot of exposure and some Williamsburg too. I don't have a lot of exposure, and I guess some Astoria. Astoria is Queens, isn't it? Or is
Yeah.
yeah? So I got a
Wait.
like tiny bit of Queens, but
Mhm.
you'll have to show me the Bronx and Queens proper um, when I get back.
You know, again, not to continue to digress, but I find it a little sad sometimes that the Bronx is usually the last place um, people visit. I think it's because it's far from everything.
Yeah.
be honest, it's it's a little bit of a hike to get up here, but definitely whenever you have some time, I'm more than glad to show you, some areas here in the Bronx. We have the botanical gardens here. We have
I
great food.
love botanic. Like every new city I go to, I want to go to the botanical gardens. Like,
It's one of my favorite places in New York City is the botanical gardens that we have here. So
wow.
yeah, it's amazing. And then there's Little Italy right next to it. So if you like Italian food, good pizza, good
I mean,
pasta.
is
There's a
do you make a distinction? Like, is there do you call any like is the, I would not call any pizza in New York bad pizza. You like if you
no,
like I'm just wondering, does like the new does a typical New Yorker have their own kind of hierarchy where there is good pizza and bad pizza in New York City? Because for me, coming into New York, it's like every piece of pizza I've ever had in New York City has been better than anywhere else I've ever had pizza.
preach to the preach to the choir, especially those who live in Chicago, who are just delusional and nonsensical for some reason. But
The sauce on top, like I mean, do
it's
you like your stuffed animals with the stuffing outside too? Like,
listen, it's a formula that truly can't be replicated elsewhere. New York pizza. So yes, we do have our hierarchy even within within New York City. There are pizzas that are better than others, but there's New York pizza, and then there's every other pizza in my eyes, at least. And I've tried.
yeah,
It's not like I've been here my whole life and have never tried all these different kinds of pizzas. No, I've tried. I've tried from different countries, East Coast, West Coast, and I'm about ready to transition that from an opinion to a fact, honestly. um
yeah. How do you feel about
nah,
Two
but
Brothers?
what happened?
How do you feel about Two Brothers, the dollar slices? Is that where is that on your hierarchy? Is that kind of low on the hierarchy? Like
For me, the $2.50 pizzas are just the epitome of good pizza, in
yeah,
my opinion.
I would agree.
um
And you don't need anything
yeah,
more than cheese, really.
say that again.
In my experience, you don't really need anything more than cheese. Like the $2.50 piece of pizza with a slice of cheese, like especially if they got buffalo sauce on the counter, you put some buffalo and some Parmesan. I mean, and then you take it on a plate and walk the street and continue on about your business while you eat it. Like,
Yeah, and did you know that some places don't serve slices of pizza?
really, they
They
just serve
either
like
give
whole
you
pizzas.
yeah, I like recently found that out in during my trip in LA. Some places don't give you slices of pizza.
Oh, you
Crazy.
mean like around the
Uh,
world? Like, or
In
like,
in in certain places on the West Coast,
yeah,
they don't give you slices of pizza, like
that's
triangular slices of pizza. You have to buy a whole pizza.
that's how it was growing up for me. Like anywhere, like unless it was a buffet, you cannot purchase by the slice. Yeah, like when you get to New York, you
That's
purchase it by the
I
slice.
I didn't know that was a thing in other places. That's ridiculous to me. What am I supposed to do? Go to the corner store and order a pizza pie for myself? Come on
Well,
now.
they do. That's
Yeah,
why they sell like personal and kid sized pieces. And like, I think people typically just save the leftovers and eat them the next day.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. I get that too, but
that's what I would do when I was in like South Brooklyn. We got like I think it's called like Sunny John's or something. It's been around for like 30 years, and um I'd get like the extra large and I'd eat it for like 2 days. Love a good margarita pizza
mm, oof, don't get me started,
or a
please.
grandma pizza.
My stomach is gonna start talking to me in different languages if you keep this on.
All right.
uh,
Did you? I feel like we've like the talking. We're on the topic of like life beyond the classroom, and honestly, I don't think we can top a discussion of pizza.
no, philosophical conversation overshadowed by pizza.
Well,
caption of
well, no, I mean like
I mean, we
at
can.
least for the life beyond the classroom section, right? Like
Hmm.
maybe You could talk about, I mean, you have far more experiences in New York that because you were from here or from there.
Mhm.
Like, what about the museum visits? How are those?
Um, the museum visits. So in terms of life outside of the classroom, I'm gonna take a more general approach in my answer.
Cool.
Just because, well, first of all, we weren't able to visit as many museums as we wanted to because of the pandemic, and just conflicts and schedules at times. We did go with Professor Harvey um, to a museum, but I think that the highlight of the semester for me personally, aside from the professors, which were terrific as we've discussed already, aside from the classes, which were also terrific and which we've also discussed already, I think just the involvement that I had with my classmates, the interactions, the hangout sessions, the times that we would go to bars and discuss certain things, the little get-togethers, even the group me conversations that we would have, were by far for me the highlight of the semester, because I felt that, and I don't know if it was necessarily true for you, because I'm sure that a lot of your classes were probably virtual, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's halfway through my second semester. We went virtual. This coming semester will be my first time back in person.
right, right. So you um, probably haven't had that much experience recently in person, but we started off basically right away in person. And I got to know all of my classmates in the master's program, and also, since I took the class at Stony Brook in the PhD program, and I just felt like the energy was on another level in terms of just me feeling welcomed, me feeling like I had people who had very similar interests and also very different interests, that I
Mhm.
could talk about, and that I could learn more about, and just the overall kindness and just the welcoming spirit that was presented to me by my classmates was by far the highlight of my semester, because for me at least, regardless of how good the classes may be, regardless of how good the professors may be, it would not have been what I would have wanted it to be had it not been for the energy and just the overall vibe of my classmates. And I think I'm very appreciative of that, and I'm very lucky and blessed to have ended up with the classmates that I did end up with. And obviously now that we're all more comfortable with each other, we're gonna do more things together. Hopefully, if um, COVID permits it.
Mhm.
But it's nice that a lot of them are actually not from New York, because it's kind of on me to show them what there is to see in New York City, and that's something that I'm always very happy to do. Um, but yeah, just the relationships and the bonds that I've been able to form with my classmates, who I now call friends, has definitely been the highlight of my semester. And whether it be just like casual conversations at a bar, dinners that we would have together. Um, Let me just tell you a quick story. Actually, you know
Yeah,
Amanda. Right? You spoke with
Amanda
Amanda.
Springs.
Yeah, she's an English professor.
Yeah,
Um,
at Maritime. I can't remember if that's SUNY or CUNY. I think it's SUNY. SUNY Maritime. I don't know. She's an English professor. She told
yeah.
me she's in my cohort. She got into this program because
Oh, she's in your cohort. Okay.
yeah, she started, as far as I know, she started the same semester as me, but
Okay.
she's going part-time.
Right.
Um, and the reason even though she had a PhD in English, the reason she sought out this program was because her English department wanted her to, well, I guess she's like in the humanities department at her university.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They wanted her to start teaching more like logic and modern courses with like,
Right,
and so she wanted a more rigorous background in
right. Okay.
philosophy.
So you're familiar with Amanda. Good. Um, Basically, one of our first couple of weeks there, she actually invited us to her apartment to just like chat, and get to know each other. Um, and as soon as we arrived to the apartment, we head on over to the living room, and there's a whole assortment of like cheese plates and snacks and food and beverages. Um, and I just thought that was like amazing, how she went through the trouble of making everything, like preparing everything herself, having this little like event and get together um, amongst ourselves after we had just previously visited a museum. And I just thought that was like so nice and just welcoming and fantastic. And it gave us the ability to get to know each other a lot more. As you can imagine, we talked about a lot of philosophy, but also talked a lot about our personal lives, and play a lot of really fun games with each other. And I just thought it was a nice way to, start forming relationships with each other. And from that point on, I think it's only been, it's only gone up from there. And it's something that I've really appreciated, not just from Amanda, who did set that up to begin with, but just from all my classmates, what they've been able, the role that they've been able to play in my intellectual growth, my personal growth, and just my overall enjoyment in class has definitely been the highlight for me of the semester. So I think you will see what I'm talking about this upcoming semester, as you put yourself back into in-person classes, and as we get to know each other more, you and I, as well as our other classmates. I think it's gonna be, you're gonna definitely see why I'm so adamant and so excited every time I talk about my classmates and just the overall energy and vibe. Um, so yeah, you can you can let me know if I was on point with that assertion once you experience it.
I'm very excited. I really, um, I was already excited to get back for the the rigor, the philosophy itself, the coursework, the my goals for my future, wanting to become a professor eventually, all of that. And I was going to New York. I'm going to New York by myself, right? Like
Yeah.
I was scared. I was nervous,
Yeah.
and I had been preparing myself mentally to be resilient, to stay focused on my work. But now I'm like also just kind of like in a more comfortable place and excited to. I feel more confident that I have like a support network of colleagues and friends to,
Absolutely. Yeah.
not just my family back here to lean into if I need to, but also, and
Yeah.
not even just something to lean into if I need to, just something to enrich my experience. And I think
For
that will
sure.
stand. And the cohort you're talking about is a first year cohort, right? It's the 2021 cohort. So anybody who comes in this cycle will get to meet them.
Yeah, we just basically add on to that. And then Grant was part
Growing.
of it as well. Yeah, Grant was part of it as well. Alyssa was part of it as well. And then I also, having taken the PhD class, I would include them in it as well. So even though due to the geographical limitations of, most PhD students live in Stony Brook, so
Right.
we're not able really to hang out with them as much as I'd like. But I would definitely include them as well because they were just all very friendly, good energy, lots of insights, lots of different interests. And I feel like you learn the most honestly from the interactions that you have with classmates. And yeah, it's something that I really appreciate. And I know for sure going forward, it's going to be a big reason why I am as happy as I am with the program.
Yeah, I remember my first 2 semesters in person, getting to see more of those, like getting to have conversations with PhD students, like during the break, in the middle of class, and before and after. Like with virtual, that's something I do miss, is like you got to like talk to your classmates during the break, and for in-person classes, but with virtual classes, you didn't really get to. You just kind of all went and did your own thing for like 10 minutes. But I think in particular, if you have a chance to talk to PhD students, it's so valuable because they're like this really interesting like stepping stone. Like you have like, you have your exposure to professors, and they're immutable and great models, of course, and you have your fellow MA students who are sort of like directly peers, and the level you should at least be meeting. But then you have like the in between with the PhD students, right? Like of the people who have that experience of taking consistently taking PhD courses. Maybe they've already done their like, I don't know what the technical term is, but the test that they take after 2 or 3 years that test them on their knowledge of the history of philosophy. Their qualifying exam for the dissertation, I think is what it is. And
They're also, some of them are also teaching.
that's what I was going to say next. Yeah, they're also like teaching courses. They've been research assistants, they've been teaching assistants. But yes, by the second, third, and fourth years, they're actually teaching their own courses, their own intro courses, or whatever it may be. Yeah, I think it's important to see all the shades along the way, the shades of lived experiences that you will be moving into, and getting to fraternize, I guess you'd call it. I don't know if that's a very technical word. Socialize, I think, is the more conventional word to use these days. Getting to meet them, getting to know them, getting to have conversations with them. It's great. I think you've really hit all the points as to why that is, and I'm really grateful that you brought up such a valuable part of the program. I was like talking about pizza, and you're over here like, okay, well, people are more important than pizza, Justin. Like,
well, look, you can have the pizza with the people. So we don't have to, they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
yeah. There's a lot of great benefits to being in this program. Speaking of, like, what is your overall impression of the MA program?
Did you hear that?
I heard
The
a
honk.
honk. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say that's New York City for you. But yeah, no, like I've basically already, there you go. See, that's why you need to experience every single borough, because you won't really get a full grasp of it until you do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I meant to tell you. Ed mentioned one time that he loves the Bronx because when he wants to get us, so New York has changed a lot in the past few decades, and when he wants to get a sense of what New York used to be like 20, 30 years ago, he will go to the Bronx because it feels like old New York.
Yep. Nope. I echo that sentiment. Absolutely echo that sentiment. The Bronx, I mean, obviously there's been change over the years, but for the most part, the vibrant culture is still very much at play here. So yeah, you have to at some point come to the Bronx.